This video will be concerned with sales strategy. Now, a sales strategy must be in place before a sales force can be designed. It's pointless trying to assemble a sales force if they haven't got clear direction as to what they should do or how they should be configured, how they should be set out in terms of their activities. So the following must be taken into account. First of all, there should be some idea of the type of customers and the groups that exist. In other words, the designer of the strategy must have some idea of the market segments. How many market segments apply in the context of the product or service. The segments could be based on gender or on age or on location, income groups. It could be on a whole variety of criteria. But the market segments should be identified before a sales group can come into existence, at least a successful one. So what categories of products or services will be advertised to these segments? So having identified the segments, the market segments, it's then important to work out what products are being pointed at those segments. What will the sales activity be in the context of the products available within the company, let's say, in relationship to the segments that exist or have been identified? And what key activities and resources are necessary to ensure efficient marketing and selling of these products to each segment? So it's not just good enough identifying the segments, that is clearly necessary, but it's not totally sufficient. It's necessary, but not totally sufficient. More must be added to the segments. And that extra bit is what products ideally match the requirements of the segments. And then finally, what resources do the marketing team have in order to successfully engage in marketing within those segments? So those three questions needs to be posed at the outset. Now, a sales strategy defines the sales process and gives it meaning and purpose. So the sales strategy is the overall set of objectives that the company is trying to achieve. A key factor in sales strategy is customer segmentation and offering. The market must be segmented into customers who have an awareness of the company and its products. So ideally, the company should look at the segments and look at the requirements of the segments, the people within those various segments, identify the segments that it should target, and then look at the awareness of the customers within that segment in the context of the products being sold. The right products or services must be linked with the right customers in each market segment. If that's not the case, then the whole activity is doomed to failure from the outset. So it must be the case that the customer segments are clearly identified, and then the products are matched up with the requirements of those segments. The sales process includes all the necessary work which will attract and retain customers. So that is the process. The process is the tactics, the ways, the methods that the sales force will engage the attention of the customers within the segments, make the customers aware of the products, the advantages of the products, of purchasing these products and possessing the products. And it's their whole approach to that segment. And of course, their approach must recognize the sophistication of the segment and the various channels that can be used within that segment. So now when we think of customer segmentation, we can think of gender, age, income groups. We can think of all of the various ways in which we can divide up a target population into different segments, and then we can identify the attributes of those segments in terms of their custom, their traditions, the ways they go about living, and their lifestyles, and so we can look at their behaviors within the segments. And then we need to look at their needs. What do they want? What have they currently got, and what could they be offered? Now, the offerings, of course, are the products or services that the company are bringing to the market. This is what's going to be offered to the customers. It could be, of course, programs or services. It doesn't have to be a physical product. It could be a service or an intangible product. And then what systems, what utilities, what facilities are going to be deployed in the delivering of the offering. In other words, how will the company contact the customers? Will it do it through some channel of advertising or direct marketing, or how will it go about it? And finally, the price. The price must be right to first of all attract the customers and to make the sales, but it must also be right for the company and to enable the company to meet its own objectives of paying dividends, paying salaries, wages, investing in the future, updating its equipment and plant, paying its taxes. So the price must be right, and setting the price is important. If it's set too high, it may allow competitors to come into the market and take the customers. If it's too low, it may jeopardize the future of the business. So setting the price is a particularly tricky exercise. Now, the sales process, we start with customer attraction and retention activities. And this is based on this article by Saltner and Sinha in 2004. So we could start by saying we have lead generation. In other words, the company has a lead, someone who may be interested in purchasing the product, or some organization, perhaps a wholesaler, or a chain of retailers, or whoever it is. There may be some lead, some contact, some point of contact that the company may use to engage in a process of dialogue with the potential customers to open up this. Then, of course, you need to look at the qualification of the customers. Are the customers capable of purchasing the product? Do they understand the product? Will it make a difference to their lives? Will it make a difference to their standard of living? Will it satisfy a real need? Is it something that will be appreciated? Or perhaps it'll just be an impulse purchase, perhaps a one-off, and the company will fail in the future. So the qualifications of the customers in the context of the product must be taken into account. And then there is proposing and selling. Once the leads have been established, and once there's an understanding of the requirements of the customers, then the company needs to propose the product as a solution to this gap in the market that it perceives, and engage in the selling process. Try to make sales. And ensuring that in that process there is closure. They bring to an end that process by making a sale. And that's the idea. The idea is to identify the customers, identify their needs, to align the product that's been produced with the fulfillment of those needs, and then proposing and selling and ensuring that there is payment and closure, and that the two sides are happy with the contact. There should be fulfillment of the order. In other words, that the order is fulfilled, it's delivered, it's of the appropriate quality, and there should be some after-sales service. The depending on, of course, the price of the product and the nature of the product, there should be some after sales service to give support to the purchaser. Now, customer segmentation, let's talk about this for a moment. Well, this involves organizing customers into clusters. Customers can be segmented on the following basis. First of all, by profile. What are the customers like? How do we profile the customers? They could be profiled in terms of they are property owners, they are homeowners, they work in certain occupations. They could be profiled by gender, by age, by education, by location. So there are different ways of profiling the customers. It's possible to look at their behavior, look at the way they respond to changes in the economy indeed. If the rate of interest rises, does this mean there is a change in expenditure patterns within that area? What's the behavior of the customers in the context of changing market conditions? What's their lifestyle like? And what do they need? What do the customers need? Again, customers with, let's say, graduate status and, let's say, professional jobs, they may need particular cars. They may need or want particular products within the house or the home. They may need particular clothing and particular ways of dressing to represent their status. It's important to look at the needs. If households have large families, their needs may be items for school, because perhaps they have large families and they will be concerned about buying equipment for schools and school uniforms and so on. So what are the customers' needs? How do they live? Segmentation allows the sales team to prioritize and customize to achieve best possible outcome. So it's what used to be said in marketing is the sales team are using a rifle. They are targeting particular groups specifically. They're not using the proverbial shotgun. They're not just trying everybody in the population. They're identifying particular groups within the population and targeting those groups. So their efforts are much more concentrated. Sales activity will differ depending on each segment and product category. As we'd expect, segments do vary and there is overlap between the segments. It could be that some highly educated individuals do not have highly paid jobs and they prefer to have other types of lifestyles. So different segments will exist and there will be overlap between the segments as well. So it's important that the sales team recognize this and are able to devise strategies to ensure that they're hitting as much of the segment as is possible. Now, customer offering. Well, this involves matching the right mix of products and services for a particular segment. It's pointless trying to sell a product, let's say a very high valued product, a very expensive product, to a predominantly working class area. The people within that area may simply not be able to afford the product. Likewise, some items sold in some areas will not be sold in other areas because they'll be seen as perhaps products that are not of a suitable standard. It's a question of trying to work out what the socioeconomic factors are that apply within different segments and trying to target those various socioeconomic factors and aligning them, as I said earlier, with the product. Different products and services may be offered to certain segments depending on needs. So it's not just looking at the segments, it's looking at the needs of the segments. So the segments may have particular needs, different areas or different socioeconomic groups may have different requirements. It's a question of trying to identify those needs and address the needs by offering products and services that specifically address those needs. Customer offering can be distinguished by the products and the services, as I said earlier. So what products and services should go to what group? What services and what systems should be used in delivering of services or indeed of products? What systems should be used in terms of the delivery and the availability of those products? Should it be made available in small shops or in supermarkets, or should they be made available in specialist stores? How should the product be taken to that group? How should it be delivered to the group? And what price should be charged? I mentioned the price earlier as well, so I won't spend time on it here, but getting the price right is very important. If it's overpriced, there will be less sales, but also it may encourage other companies to try and come in and compete for that segment. If it's underpriced, the company may be losing revenue as a consequence. Now, the sales process. Well, in order to determine a sale through segmentation and customer offering, the sales team must implement the selling process. In other words, they must have a strategy, a method of taking the product and identifying customer needs within the segment that they're targeting, and then offer that good at the right price and delivered to that segment. And they must have a strategy to do that. It can't just be made up on the hoof. It has to be worked out carefully in advance. Following a set of activities, these were defined by Suffner and Sinha, the article we're essentially following here, show a basic approach to determining a sale. For example, lead generation and qualification, making sure that the leads can be picked up. Who wants to buy the product? That's a lead. If they can find that, that's a lead. That's a way into the market. And are they capable of buying it? It's not just a question of who wants to buy it, but can they actually afford it? Will it result in a sale? Are they qualified to buy it, in other words? Then proposing and selling. Having identified the need and the group who have this particular need, then proposing the product to the group, and then selling the product to them, and convincing them that this is the right product to address that particular need. And that's the act of closing the deal. They're convinced that this is the right product for them, they will purchase it. And then the fulfillment, the finally agreeing of the contract, agreeing for the sale, and then offering them some additional support, which of course will enhance the reputation and image of the business for future possible sales. That's the reference that we've been using throughout, and in this video we've just looked at sales strategy, trying to work out what is the best method, or how the company should go about trying to generate sales by identifying the appropriate segment, by identifying the needs within that segment, and then targeting that segment to bring about fulfillment of the sale, and also offering additional services for future sales, such as after-sales services. And that concludes the video, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.